gloom here, man. It is doom and gloom. Hey, everybody, we are live. We are letting this bad boy load up on all of our platforms. I forget what day it is, Mark. What's today's date?
Honestly, it's the 13th. It's Monday the 13th. But when I woke up this morning, I was like, what's the difference between Monday, Sunday, Saturday? Like, it's all the same.
No, they're all the same. Mark, if you would do me a favor and raise yourself. You're now short again. You're short again. Let's get you higher. Yeah, Mark is definitely taller than this in real life. I promise you. There we go. There we go. So I believe that today is the 13th day of April in the year 2020. I mean, literally every single day has been blending. It's blending. We're blending together. Let's just make sure that we're up and running on the old LinkedIn Tron. Let's check that out. Everyone, thank you for joining us on Monday morning. We're still in the morning. I don't know, man. We're blending. Let's see. Yep, we are going. Let's see. Here we go. We're up and running. Yes, here we go. We are up and running. You got 9 people joining us today. 10. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to the podcast live. It is the 13th day of April. That's how we start the show off. We kind of warm up into it, right? We get our reps in. We warm up. We do our vocal exercises. I'm joined here by my man, Marc Nudelberg. And Mark, please tell me the weather in sunny South Florida right now.
It's actually cloudy. It's been cloudy for 3 days. And so I've been getting text messages through all this. Like, dude, I don't want to hear you complaining you're quarantined in paradise. So I think it's payback now because it's been raining for about 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is tropical storm nastified out here. Scott, what's up, Scott? How you doing? Good morning. Good morning to Scott. Scott's a man out there, really crushing it in the podcast. I keep saying podcast because it just comes kind of naturally to me.
You know what? You branded it.
I know. I own that shit. So I want to start with a quick little funny story that I read last night before we dig into your background and what we're going to chat about today. But I saw a couple. They were on their honeymoon. They're a South African couple that is honeymooning in the Maldives, right? And they're in one of those like crazy tropical resorts, you know, like with the huts on the water, on off the island and everything.
For sure.
And you know, they started to get word that there was going to be some quarantines and they were going to shut down, but they didn't really understand when the air travel was going to be shut down. And all of a sudden they got to notice that literally the next day there was going to be no more flights going from the Maldives to South Africa. And the only way they were going to make this flight is if they took like a 2-hour speedboat to another island and then hopped another flight. Long story short, they determined that there was no possible way that they were going to make this connection. So they ended up staying on the island, and the last 2 guests at this resort. Now, by law in the Maldives, if there's still guests on a resort, the resort has to be fully staffed. So there's literally a staff of 40 people just for these 2 guests on their honeymoon. It is the most insane story. So they're literally there. There's like 15 waiters, 7 busboys. The scuba diver instructor gives them private lessons every day, and they have a routine. They're relaxing, they're eating, and they're being waited on hand and foot. So that's just
better than that, though. And I bet they're going to be like, if it was me, I'd end up being best friends with everybody who worked there. And then all of a sudden, we would be like honorary members of the resort, you know?
Right. and it's so funny too, because wifey and I were talking, it's either going to make or break that relationship right in the beginning.
Oh,
right?
For sure. It's done.
Why do you keep shrinking? Are you in one of those chairs that literally just keeps going down? All right. Good morning, everybody. I figured I'd start with a fun little story. Hello to Marcello. We got Marcello. We got Scott. We got Helly. We got Gabe. We got Scott. We got a bunch of other people joining us this morning. Welcome to the podcast live. I'm with my man, Marc Nudelberg, down in South Florida. So, Mark, real quick for my tribe that does not know you, quick little intro. Tell us who you are and what you do best, my man.
Yeah, currently the president of On the Ball Ventures, which is a family-owned agency. We help companies modernize their sales process. We teach LinkedIn like a pro, which we've been doing a ton of through webinars, and that's got a ton of success, great feedback. But we're business development specialists. I come from a heritage of sales guys from my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my dad, myself. But prior to this, I spent 10 years as a college football coach. So I was a special teams coordinator, recruiting coordinator all around the country. And I'll let people pop into my profile to see the background and all that kind of stuff, but have really married my history of coaching and everything I learned about coaching and building process and culture, and brought that to the business world now, and partnered with my dad at On the Ball Ventures to really help people grow in the digital era through all different kinds of facets.
Yes, I love it. And Mark and I connected offline a couple of weeks ago. We had a tremendous chat. We really dug into each other's backstories and connected. I'm like, this dude is legit. And this is how you do it, people, right? Use this time to create new relationships like Mark and I are doing, dig into old relationships, foster them, maintain them. I mean, isn't that the fundamental of sales, man? Like, let's talk
This
about
is
that.
what we teach people. This is what we're teaching people right now is that, and my dad's been doing this for 6 years. And when I got into business, he kind of wrote the blueprint for me because I was looking for a process because I'm so process driven from my coaching background. And he really wrote me a blueprint of, hey, just follow these activities, do these things daily on LinkedIn, and really taught me how to build and manage relationships at scale through LinkedIn, which led to a ton of success early on with where I was originally. And, to be able to take that now and help people understand that you don't have to get face to face anymore.
No.
We've lived in a virtual world for a decade. Facebook probably really revolutionized everything after MySpace, but like now that it's in the business community and people are forced to really learn how to do business in this environment, it's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just take a step back, right? Like everything changed with this virus on how we do things. One, as you and I talked about, being mindful with your tone and your approach, right? We're not telling people to stop selling, right? Because if you stop selling, and I don't like that advice. I don't like advice when people say stop selling. I think that you still have to continue to sell. You just have to be mindful of your target and how you talk to them and how you engage, right? Like these are the empathetic kind of approaches.
I would say, and we talk about this in our trainings, but I would say that the world has completely shifted to a relationship selling atmosphere as opposed to a transactional atmosphere, which that shift had happened years and years ago. And if you look at sales organizations anywhere, the best person, the best producer in the sales culture has unbelievable relationships, and that's what leads them to success. So now you really don't have a choice but to rely on relationships or to build relationships. So the cadence is not really that you have to stop selling or business has to stop. Contrary, what I talk about with people is that this isn't a stop sign. This is just a detour to on your way to where you're going. So what you're talking about and the way that you're approaching people has to be relationship based, because if you're helping people get through their hard times, that's where you'll find business that can be done now.
Yeah, 100% too. And I've been talking with a couple of my coaches and mentors about how do you kind of restructure the conversation where you're providing this is just one idea and it's not for everybody, is how do you provide upfront value now with no charge? I'm not going to use the word free, with the idea that you're going like relationship karma, business karma, that you're going to get it on the back end, or structuring a deal where it's more performance based versus upfront. In my world, I shifted my business a year ago to be more, performance, not so much performance based, but like more of an upfront cost structure versus true performance based. And now you kind of have to shift things around a little bit, especially in the world of recruiting. So that's something we definitely want to talk about. We're going to get to all those questions in a minute here, but I want to talk about, your LinkedIn training. So high level, kind of walk us through what makes your training different than everybody else's, because I see it all over. I see it just real quick. I see it all over the place, man, right? I see people doing sales training where they're focusing on utilizing LinkedIn Sales Navigator and they're using an automated approach, a spray and pray approach. I get hit up, and I'm sure so many people that are following along with us right now, I get hit up multiple times daily with completely irrelevant sales messages. They are off base. They are not personalized. This person didn't take 1 second. And you know what I do? I effing delete them. I have no time for that shit, man. So what makes what you guys do a little bit different?
We're teaching people how to communicate one-to-one and how to build relationships through the platform. We're not teaching people how to use it to promote their company. We're not teaching it how to use it to promote the current sale that's going on. We're teaching people how to put themselves on display. And, I don't want to get too much into what we do because we could spend hours talking about it.
And we might have to charge you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But really, it's about teaching people how to personally brand themselves and reach out to people through warm introductions, through normal conversation, finding personal commonalities with people to start conversations that have nothing to do with business, to lead to a relationship, to lead to business.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. So let's talk about, when people throw around personal branding all the time, they throw it around. And, I have my definition of it, but I'd love to hear when people say personal branding, especially on LinkedIn, what does that mean to you?
What makes you unique? The things that matter to you, because I think in a world where popularity matters, right? The more people that know about you, the more people that have awareness of you. I mean, it's the marketing funnel, right? Like we talk about this all the time, and brands use it to build product loyal or brand loyalty. But if you use it as a person, if you just put content out there that's relevant to you, that matters to you, not in hopes to get likes, but in hopes to create awareness from a mass audience of what you do and who you are, what you're about, that then creates consideration, that then moves people to a decision of, I either like you and I want to do business with you, or I don't. And that's the way you're pushing people through a prospect funnel. That to me is personal branding. I'm putting out there things from coaching, things from leading, things from my family, like everything that I'm doing that I think is relevant to who I am as a person, I'm putting out there because it gets me closer to an audience of people that I can know, like, and trust in order to do business with.
Right. And it's really about creating your own audience. And that's something that I kind of take. Like there's a couple of different approaches that I see on LinkedIn. And it's not to say that one is right, one is wrong, right? Some of the tactics may be right or wrong, but I see some people that are literally racing to connect and add as many connections and as many followers as possible. And I kind of understand, like, from their mindset why they do it, right? Some of them have a legitimate quote unquote business strategy for that because they want to get to a mass appeal, a mass, kind of voice, a mass audience. And some of the tactics behind that I don't kind of agree with. But for me, and I think a lot of people who utilize it, in a way where you're focused, you're strategic, and you're intentional, right? I did a breakdown probably about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago. I'll repost that later on, where I used my LinkedIn recruiter account to reverse engineer, and I broke down my audience profile. I took my 11,000 connections and I broke it down. And when I break it down, you could see the makeup of people that are in my industry, whether they're recruiters, whether they're HR people, whether they're C-suite executives in my industry, and then candidates, right? Prospective people that work in the marketing and digital and social field. That's my audience. The other piece there too, 87% of my audience is US based, right? And that's no knock on anyone else around the world. I'm a global citizen, but that's my audience who I want to be talking to because that's who I'm doing business with. So being strategic and being smart about, who you connect with and who sees your message, right?
100%. Yeah. So when we teach people to build an audience, we tell them that it's invite only. So like, we don't believe in the accept and ignore only two options. We believe in a third option, which is starting the conversation that you're either trying to connect with somebody or they're trying to connect with you. And you decide based on the conversation whether or not they come into your network as part of your world. And to me, that is, you could have 40,000 people that are in your audience, but if 39,000 of them aren't willing to refer you or have a conversation with you or know anything about you, what kind of value do they have to you? So you're just looking for them to hit like on your content? Like, okay, I guess.
No. Yeah, the vanity metric chase on LinkedIn is absolutely out of control right now. It's not a badge of honor. And here's the other piece I say too. Let's use I'll use the Gary Vee example here, right? So anybody on LinkedIn, your connection limit is 30,000. I'm going to assume, because I connected with Gary Vee because I worked there, we'll call it 6.5 years ago, maybe a little bit before that, I connected with Gary. I guarantee, and I'm just making a guess here, that maybe 4.5, 5 years ago, Gary hit that 30,000 limit.
Right.
Don't you think he wish he had a little bit more room to connect with people that he's connected since then?
I would think so.
Like, I'm just making a crazy assumption here that he's connected with a lot, but he's got no room for them. Right?
I would think all those people. 100%. I mean, especially in this platform. I think this platform is different than Facebook and Instagram and all the other ones, where that's really, you're trying to just push out a ton of content. And those are really more distribution channels, as opposed to me, LinkedIn is my net worth. Like the people that I know on here that I'm able to reach out to, whether they're in New York, whether they're in Boston, whether they're in California. I mean, to me, that's what it's about. Who you're getting recommendations from, who you're getting testimonials from, how you're able to leverage the people you know to get to other people. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. And I see people that are racing, that literally have been on this platform for 9, 12, 14, 16 months, that are racing to this goal to hit 30,000. And they're like, connect, link, network, profile. And I'm like, how could you sit there and tell me that you're genuinely connecting with 30,000 people in the last 8 months?
It's impossible. It's impossible. Like,
what's the point of that?
Now, what we teach people is to do 5 a day, right? And from the 5 a day that you're doing, you should be connecting with people that you know, not randoms, or people that you found a commonality to. So if you did 5 a day, right, times 30 days,
Yep.
right? That's 100. That's 450, right? What's my math there?
Yeah, you're getting there.
It's 150 in 30 days, right? It's 450 in 90 days. So there, in 6 months, you can get to 1,000 people.
Yep.
Okay, great. You're right around 1,000. That's a great way to build an audience of people that and that have value.
It's manageable too. It's manageable. I mean, I look at these posts that people out there, they're like, open, connect, network. And I kind of understand the philosophical idea that everyone's a potential connection, everyone's a potential target, and you never know where a relationship's going to go. Now, that's fine to say, but are you actually executing on that? Are you following up with those
100%? You have to be able to execute on that.
I saw someone do a crazy post where they literally like connected with like 300-400 people a day, whatever the freaking limit is there. And
it's
I'm
impossible. And where is the value in that then?
There's no value. And here's the other point too. If you're spending that much time connecting, I guarantee you could be taking that time and using it for something a lot more valuable.
100%. 100%.
So let's do a quick pause here, and we got a couple of questions from Mark. Let's see who we got here. Let's go to the audience here. Gabe, he had the first question here. Where'd he go? Gabe, where's your question? I'm scrolling here. He was asking, is now a good time to start would you say this is a good time to start a video coaching or media coaching business?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, I think coaching is a great place to be. I think be careful, because what I figured out after getting out of coaching, look, I was a football coach for 10 years. I know what it means to devote your time to making other people better and giving of yourself for others. There's a lot of people in this business world that don't really understand what coaching is. They're just looking to get a monthly paycheck from you, and they're going to give you the same, 5 basic rules that every leader is going to give you, and they're not looking to dive into it with you and do it with you. So yeah, I think it's a great time to start a coaching business because people need help navigating this new landscape. But be careful of what you're saying and how you're saying it, because you want to find a way to differentiate from other people.
Yeah, 100%. And what about, the credibility behind it too? Like, there's a couple of schools of thought where it's like, hey, you just got to get out there and try it and stuff. But like, how do you build customers if you haven't had customers before? What are some good approaches there?
You start with one, you find one, and you find a way to deliver value and get results from that one. And then you take that case study and you bring it to another one. So you have 2. And to me, that's how you exponentially grow. That's how I think, you do anything. Like, look, I was a college football coach for a decade. I never played college football. I played high school football. I grew up and I was trained underneath Eddie Gran, who's now the offensive coordinator at the University of Kentucky, who laid an unbelievable foundation for my principles in coaching. And then that's why I was able to go on and have success at all of the other schools that I was at, because I didn't have to necessarily do it to coach it, but you have to understand it. And you have to understand how to motivate people and how to, have a lot of different ways of connecting with people and communicating with people, because not everybody receives information the same way. So I don't necessarily think that the experience parts is what's important. It's understanding what it takes to get to where they need to get and being able to move people. Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's really good advice. And what about maybe like if you're trying to start a business, maybe taking on a couple of clients for free to build those case studies?
Look, when I started coaching, I was a volunteer. I did all my work for free. And so I think, if you're in a place that you're able to do it, that you can survive and do it for free for 90 days. And I don't think you say, hey, I'm going to sign you on to a contract and do it free for forever. But if you believe in yourself, sign them on to a 90-day contract and say, look, I'll do work for 90 days. If you don't see value in me, we'll go our separate ways. But if you do, here's the contract moving forward and what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And Scott Burgess asks, Mark, what are some of the common vetting practices you use when you connect with people on social and not just LinkedIn?
In social, to me, number one, I go look at the profile to figure out if there's any commonalities. Like, I don't like to just respond to people blind. I might be able to see in their profile why they were reaching out to me. So I look for the commonality first to say, hey, I see this is there. Why else would you reach out to me, or were you referred by somebody? I try to, find, but that to me is getting to the point of what made you want to connect with me.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's certainly important there. What are some of those you coach football, which is a tough sport. What are some of those parallels that you're drawing now during some of maybe those tougher stretches, maybe like you're with a team that was it like going through a losing streak or going through some tough times that you're applying now in this current crisis that we're going through?
Trust, discipline, accountability. Period. Those three are the fundamentals to any organization's success, good times or bad times. You have to trust the process. You have to have a process, number one, and trust that that's going to get you through it, right? You have to be disciplined to it to continue to do the work. It's hard. You're getting up. You don't have to commute to work anymore. You're sitting in your kitchen doing work, right? And then the accountability piece of who's going to hold you accountable to those disciplines.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's shift a little bit and talk about, you're involved with your dad's business too. How's your dad shifting from the speaking, he's a global speaker all over the world, sales, strategy and all that. Like, how's he shifting
Wrote a book, Confessions of a Serial Salesman, the shameless plug right there on the show. Sorry.
We love shameless plug alert, shameless plug alert. We love shameless plugs. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, shameless plugs used carefully, not shamelessly.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, he's pivoted obviously to webinars and living in a virtual world. Obviously, he's not speaking in front of thousands of people and traveling, but we are doing weekly LinkedIn like a pro to be able to continue to engage with people. Him and I are doing them together on camera, which is really cool. So we're sharing the stage, if you will.
There you go.
But he's been a master of refacing and pivoting his entire career. I mean, he built a very successful cell phone company down here in the late 80s, early 90s, got into marketing, and as far as an agency goes, early in the game, pivoted to social, and then wrote a book and went on to speaking, and has just changed faces so many different times. He really understands staying ahead of trends. And, it's a privilege to be able to work with him. Obviously, he's been a mentor of mine since I was a young kid, but to now be really working with each other and figuring out a way for us to best position on the ball to help companies not only move to a digital environment and sales, but both marketing and training is really cool.
No, that's awesome. And do you recall something maybe from your youth where maybe your dad was telling you something or trying to teach you something, and maybe you blew him off? Maybe you were like, what the hell's this old man telling me? Why do I have to listen to this guy? And now you kind of look back on it and you're like, oh shit, like he was telling me that for a reason. Is you having like any kind of flashbacks or memories from your childhood?
I wouldn't see any like times that I was blowing him off, but I mean, I remember him when On the Ball started 26 years ago. He literally built it out of the backyard of our house. Like, we had a loft that he had a desk in, and that was where kind of his office stuff was. And he would take phone calls in the backyard all the time. So having that visual of him building a company from nothing, especially in a time like right now where it's like, okay, how do we really make sure that we're in the best position possible coming out of this, and being in the role of responsibility of growth and development for the company I rely on that. I remember that, and to have him, to be able to have those conversations with him, but to have those memories is definitely something that's at the foundation of where we are now.
I love it. That's awesome. And what is he teaching you now? What's his guidance?
Same thing as always. I mean, work ethic. I mean, talk about accountability partner. I mean, there's no better accountability partner than him. He's up at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning every day, putting unbelievable reading in there. We do a huddle on Facebook, the Nudelberg Daily Huddle. We go live every morning at 8 o'clock. We share it. We share content. But we've got, 400 people that join us, that they're looking for just some good content, some positivity, some motivation, some preservation, some activation, anything to get them going. So that he's my accountability partner. So just staying true to what we need to do to be successful right now, which at the end of the day is always about putting in the work.
It is. And like, there's no shortcuts. And especially now it's discipline. Like, I'll just put it out there. I mean, I lost, with this crisis, I still have, my core client and a couple of other pieces of business, but I lost, and I'm not saying, I don't phrase it as I lost business. I probably lost about 75, 80% of the opportunities that I would have. Now it's about shifting to finding other opportunities, pivoting your services, changing your messaging, doing what I'm doing now, triple
Correct.
down on
Prices
content.
change, services change, but you just got to stay fluid with it. And that's where I talk about it being a detour is when you started 2020, you had a goal for the end of the year of where you thought it would go and what you thought it would be. That's still the destination, but you got to take a left turn here. You got to take a right turn there. You're going to have to do some things that you didn't know you were going to have to do, but you're still trying to get to the same place.
Exactly. And I think so many people are scared of the pivot and the change because you're combining the unknown of what's happening, with this, the coronavirus. You don't know what's going to happen. So you're anxious, you're overprotective. You don't know what's happening with your business. You're protecting your family. I mean, we've seen nothing like this, but I think it goes back to what you said about being your work ethic. And that could be your physical routine, your fitness routine, your eating routine, your work routine. And substitute.
I think it's all. I think it's all. I think everything feeds into it.
Right. Like, let's just say, for example, that you're out of work. Like, obviously. Oh, Pops is in the house. What up, Pops?
Daddy-o
tuning in. Daddy-o tuning in here. Like, so let's stick with this idea of work ethic, right? So you're going to shift if you're out of work. You're going to shift your work ethic to finding a job. But when I talk about the job search, the number one thing is mindset. I'll save that conversation for another time. But using that work ethic mindset for physical fitness, for creating content, for creating a strong point of view. I mean, we talk about jobs. That's another piece too, from a sales perspective, right? On LinkedIn, using it as a thought leadership platform, right?
100%. To me, when we talk about creating content, we break it up into two buckets. There's business and there's personal. And inside of that business bucket, those should be the nuggets that separate you from competitors, or whatever it is that your angle is, that you deliver value to people. Share that. Whatever 100%. Your value prop is, you share that. That's not selling. That's sharing with the world why you're valuable and what you do. And that's a completely different scenario than putting out there, hey, we've got 25% off of this for the next 2 weeks.
Let's talk about that idea too. From a sales perspective, I don't think there's enough people that are utilizing LinkedIn the right way for thought leadership and personal branding. I think people could kind of confuse personal branding with self-promotion. There's a big difference there, right?
100%. That goes back to me talking about when you said what's personal branding. It's what makes you you, right? The things you care about, the people you do things with, where you go, who you are. It is what you do. There is a business component to it because that's part of who you are. But sharing what matters to you so that other people can know who you are, that's the definition of personal branding to me.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's tough because I see so many people that I really respect and admire that are always doing the chest pounding on LinkedIn. And it's kind of a turnoff. It really is. Like, you have to mix it up a bit. And then I see so many people who call themselves influencers, right? That have such mass reach that are still utilizing this platform for me, versus being philanthropic and altruistic and thinking about ways to really help others with their reach. And it's a turnoff, man. I think people are being tone deaf.
How do you deliver value while being genuine and authentic to who you are? If that's your thought process going into every post on social media, you're crushing it. You're crushing it because look, if you are that motivational coach, if you are Tony Robbins all the time, then great, be that. Go ahead and be that and do that because that's who you are. But if that's not you, number one, it's going to probably come off as, a little phony, or there's going to be holes in it. People are going to recognize that, or even worse, you're going to be putting that out there and then somebody's going to take it to a one-on-one with you and they're going to see that that's not really who you are and you're dead in the water.
That's so effing true, man. That's so true, right? Like I preach this all the time. Like, what you see here is what you get. You get Adam in every way whatsoever, right? 100%. And I think it's I think sometimes, like, unless you're like a Gary Vee, where there's Gary Vee and there's Gary Vaynerchuk, right? There's certain people that could separate the two. There's a lot of commonalities, but the Gary Vee is more of the showman that you get, not the Gary Vee behind that. Gabriel asked me, have I ever thought about commercializing the show? You know what, dude? If someone comes to me and they want to buy this show, we'll have that conversation.
It's on the market.
Yeah, it's on the market. What's Pops saying there? Pops is saying, act like the CEO will determine your behavior. And if you focus on behavior, not the outcomes, that's what winners do. Spot on, Pops. You're doing a good job with this kid, Mark, here. You're doing a good job, Pops. Marcello works for you guys? No,
No.
Marcello. No, Marcello says, "Good point, Adam. But when should we think about pivoting?" That's a good one, because there's no true answer for that. I think that comes to everyone's, when you have to determine your market, your industry, what you're working on, and having that forecast and outlook. And I also think that now more than ever, it's time to test the waters, think about your transferable skills. Maybe you're passionate about doing something different, and that's the opportunity, right?
So I think that's the scary part. And I wrote about this in my dad's book in the forward, that change is hard because, like you said, you're not relying on previous knowledge to get you through it. It's an unknown. You don't know how to get there. You don't know what to do necessarily, but this is the time. Like, if you're not happy with what you've been doing for 5 years, there's really no better time to transition, because now is the time that you're able to build something, because the cost of entry is going to be far lower now than it was a month ago.
Yeah, let's talk about the pivot for a moment. And I'm not going to spend this time talking about my pivot was forced. My pivot was because I got fired. I got fired by VaynerMedia and Gary Vee, and it forced me to have that moment of true introspective self-awareness and say, do I like what I'm doing right now? Right. And the answer was no. Am I good at what I'm doing right now? I'm kind of good at it. Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? And the answers were no across the board there. And that's what really pushed me into making my pivot. So let's just take this as an example. If you're out of work and you're like, shit, you know what? I really don't like what I've been doing the last few years. Let me use this time to reflect, to really think about my strengths. What do I want to be focusing on? And use this time to strategize and start that adventure, go down that road.
I think the ability to be self-actualized and really know who you are internally, especially if you've spent a long time in your prior job, because you've just been burying the fact that you're unhappy because it's the job you've had and you've had to keep it. Well, now you've been pushed to a place where you don't have that job anymore. You have an option to go find something else. You got to uncover all that stuff now. You got to peel back the layers. And that's not necessarily easy to do for everybody, because you got to take a lot of internal thoughts and really look inside yourself to know what those feelings are.
I absolutely love it. And I got my man, Kool Kel, Kelvin Joseph, in the green room. I see you, Kelvin. How you doing over there, my man? Looking dapper. I can't hear you because you're not on yet, but I'm going to bring you in a couple of minutes because I want to introduce you to my man, Marc Nudelberg. We'll have a little virtual networking here, and we'll show you guys how all it's done. So, a couple of questions, Marc, that I want to ask you. I would love for you to give me one professional silver lining and one personal silver lining. And Kelvin, I'm going to ask you the same thing later on, so I'm giving you a chance to kind of think about that.
Okay, so from this time specifically,
yes.
Personal silver lining is that I'm legitimately happy in my life. That, like, being an entrepreneur right now and having a company, during this time could be super scary and super hard. But because I believe in what we do and the value that we deliver, I'm happy and I'm not scared of the future. So it's been wide open to me. I spend all day, every day in my apartment with my girlfriend. So I know that I truly love her, because we cannot get away from each other, even if we wanted to. So I know that I'm genuinely happy with my life, where I live, what I'm doing, who I am. And then silver lining professionally is that we are uniquely positioned in this time. That, like, my dad has done an amazing job learning LinkedIn from 5 years ago and developing the right strategy on how to use it and ways to teach people. And the combination of the two of us, me bringing the disciplines and the thought process of how to build learning structure into what he knows and what he's been doing, it's been unbelievable dialogue, and we've really been able to transform what we do. So just a lot of really, really good things and positive things that I know if you just keep your eyes on the horizon, you're going to get there.
I love it. That's fantastic. And Marc, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Find me here on LinkedIn for sure, at Marc Nudelberg. Twitter is at Coach Nudelberg. LinkedIn is at Coach Noodle, Nudel, and Facebook, Marc Nudelberg. I'm omni-channel when it comes to social. I promise you, if you send me an invite, I'm going to respond to you with a message asking why you're looking to connect. But I'm looking forward to having conversations with anybody that wants to connect.
I love it, man. That's fantastic. And I'm going to introduce my next guest. We're going to get this conversation going.
Great.
Kelvin Joseph, Kool Kel, my man, Kool Kel. Welcome to the podcast, my man.
How you doing?
Kool Kel, man. Good to meet you.
All good.
All good. I am going to make the formal introduction. Marc, meet Kelvin Joseph. Marc Nudelberg, Kelvin Joseph. Connect.
Pleasure. We have some commonalities in our background. I think my dad's familiar with you, and you've worked with some people that we know pretty well. So glad to connect face to face and draw some more synergies.
I'm the old guy then. I love your dad.
That's awesome.
Blazers and all.
Oh yeah, Mr. Blazers, no doubt about that. You find him, you know he's got an unbelievable closet full of Blazers.
He's like that hockey guy. What's that hockey guy? Don Cherry? Is that the guy who
yeah.
rocks, all those crazy Blazers?
And shout out to Bob Goldfarb, because he's the one who actually makes all of his jackets, who keeps him looking dapper as ever.
Listen, your dad has so much energy. I mean, the reality is that, man, I think that's one of his greatest strengths right there.
Yeah, and growing up in that environment with his energy and that atmosphere, there really wasn't a choice but to either jump on board or get left behind. So kind of, it gets passed right down to me, my brother, and some of the other people that we hold close to us.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question about that, because you look super happy. And I have two teenagers, right?
Yeah.
When I try to pass down the Kool Kel to my teenagers as well, it seems like you are like a duck to water. Like, how were you able to embrace the legacy from a previous generation without being overwhelmed by it? Because it seems like
that's a great question.
I think it took time for me to get there. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, when he was waking me up at 7 o'clock on Saturday mornings to wash the cars outside every Saturday, like, I wasn't into that. I wasn't excited about that. But because he held me accountable to those disciplines my whole life growing up, when I got into my own work environment at Florida State and became a student assistant coach, and I just was like, oh, I'm passionate about this because I liked what I was doing, and I had the fundamentals of work ethic taught to me from him, it clicked like, oh, wow. Like, he really set me up to do this. And then that gratitude overflowed from there, So get through the hard parts now of fighting a tooth and nail on it, because they'll be happy about it once they figure out what they want to do and it transitions.
Love it.
And were you like a short talks kind of guy? Like, okay, I'll listen to you for 2 minutes, but if you like drawing on for a 10-minute speech, I'm not listening.
Yeah, I mean, my dad never sat me down for hours to give me full on, dissertations about anything. Everything was short and sweet, It was, but he loved me hard and coached me hard as well. There was a lot of times where I screwed up and I knew I screwed up, and so did the rest of the neighborhood, But that's just how it was. I knew I was loved. I knew I was cared for. I knew I got held to a very high standard. I'd come home with 4 A's and 2 B's, and we weren't celebrating the 4 A's. We were asking why I got 2 B's, But I knew he had my back always. And, I think that understanding of being loved and being shown guidance all the time, it ends up paying dividends in the long run.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
A whole podcast on this, but eyes over here.
No doubt.
I love it. Those are fantastic questions. You two guys connect. I'll connect you with emails offline.
Yeah, definitely.
Marc, thank you for your time, man, and I'll catch you on your show later this week, right?
Yeah, can't wait for that. Awesome. Appreciate you, Kool Kel. Let's connect after this, and you guys have a great show.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks.
Cool. No, that's cool. That's how we do connections and networking. Let's do the proper introduction. My next guest up on the podcast live is my man, Kool Kel, Kelvin Joseph, someone that I deeply admire, respect, somebody who really truly understands what networking means, what connections and what relationships means. And that's something that I've learned from you, that I've absorbed. And I want to just quickly thank you for that, my man.
Listen, having a relationship with you has been a complete win for me. You know how to give value. I'm with you.
I try. Isn't that what it's all about? I mean, you're a master of relationships, right? I mean, I don't think it's a surprise when we both say that, it's about adding value, right? And what's that line that you always say? I don't want to butcher your line. When your blank exceeds your blank.
Oh, the line is when your ability exceeds your ability. You understand that?
Let's say that one more. Let's say that one more time because our audio got cut out.
When your humility exceeds your ability, that's when you're able to provide value. That's when you're able to understand that happiness is success.
It really is, and I really take that to heart. Every time I see you write that, every time I see you say that, it kind of just fortifies my foundation of continuing to add value. And I think it comes down to people focused on short-term quick win transactions versus being focused on the long-term relationships, right? Like, it's not always about me right now. It's about relationships, right?
The beautiful thing about what you're saying is that the people that are just me right now, they're done. It's not happening. But the news flash is that when you get new information, you're able to change your opinion. It's okay. So I would like to change the paradigm right now. Win-win of right now is over. If you go first of all, if you go into a relationship trying to take, you've been done. You've been done for a long time.
You'll get flushed out quickly, man.
People are smelling you a mile away. Now, when you go in for a win-win in this new climate, you're done. There's no more win-win anymore. It's only about providing value, and then maybe I'll do business with you at another point. If I think you have any agenda, win-win or anything, you're done because no one trusts it anymore.
But I will say there is an exception. If you're very clear on the upfront, that you're asking for something and it's a short term, at least you're managing the other person's expectations, and then you can make a decision on the other side if that's something that you want to engage with, right?
Maybe. But let me tell you why you can't do that. If I don't know you, I don't like you, I don't trust you, no matter what you say, it's not going to penetrate the wall. So you can't even get to a win-win conversation with a person you don't know. So
I agree.
Like you have to get to know the person almost at a little bit of a disadvantage where they're clearly getting more value out of the relationship than you. Then you could move to a win-win situation after they know you, they like you, and they trust you. It's hard to get someone to know you, like you, and trust you if you start off with the win-win proposition. If you start off trying to take from them, like that's crazy. They might not even respond.
And it's tough too because in a lot of relationships, the value is very lopsided in one direction versus another. So the onus is on the person with less value to really prove themselves and prove their trustworthiness in the long run, right? Before you could give.
But here's the key, though: everybody can provide value.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And obviously, you have an amazing podcast or podcast, whatever you want to call it. But I'm coming on here to drop some gems on you. I'm telling you right now, win-win is over. It's over. Change the paradigm has shifted. You cannot win-win with me. If I don't know you, I don't like you, I don't trust you. You can't come with a win-win. Win-win is people that are already in the circle. You can't get in the circle with a win-win. If you want to enter my circle, you need to be in a situation where you're you're providing the value. And let me tell you how everyone can provide value. Let's say there's a young person that just graduated from college and they're like, what? They're like lost right now. They can still provide
no
value.
clue.
They have no clue what to even do. Like, I mean, all right. So, but they can provide value. And how they can provide value, let's say they want to get into sports, like many of them do.
It's cool.
I'll start off by saying this. College is a little bit of a scam when it comes to telling people that they could get their dream job right after graduation. If you could get your dream job right after graduation, you probably need to dream a little bit bigger. So let's just move from that. You're probably gonna have to work a little bit towards getting your dream. Like if you get your dream at 22, I mean, God. So let's just move on from that. But the reality is that everybody has some kind of value that they can add. And someone who just graduated from college could be valuable, might not necessarily to me per se, but maybe they could help my son, who is 15 years old, playing a lot of video games. Like, I mean, they can add value in many different ways as far as helping other people. They could help people that are still in college. They could help their peer group. But sometimes it's always like a situation where you're trying to meet an executive and you just got out of school and you're not sure how to add value. I think you could add value by reading all my content on LinkedIn and pressing the like button and commenting and helping amplify my stuff to the millennial audience. That would help.
So many ways. There's so many ways. There's so many ways to add value, and it's tough right now because I think people are distracted, and rightfully so, with everything that's happening out there in the world. You have to keep the train moving forward. Momentum is everything, right?
Yeah. So in order to keep the train moving forward, sometimes you do have to take a little bit of a step back and analyze what you are doing and what your intentions are, because people see right through your intentions. So someone might contact me and then I say, hey, Kelvin or Kool Kel. I have many names now, right? So listen, tell me about your career journey. I'd like to learn more because I'm looking to get into the industry. I'm like, all good. You want me to get on the phone with you and tell you my whole career journey for a whole hour?
Yeah.
It's almost like, listen, like there's like a podcast where someone interviewed me for a whole hour and asked me about that, like on the first page of my LinkedIn profile. So you probably should listen to that podcast and then ask me some follow-up questions that I'm happy to answer. But
go a bit deeper.
Get on the phone with a random person to tell them my career journey. I don't even want to talk about it.
You got to be specific.
I'm forced to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, your career story is incredible. It's a consistent growth. So many lessons learned. But I will ask you this. Let's go back to a rough time in your career, right? Let's go back to a rough patch that you could think of, and let's talk about something that you learned then that you're applying now to get through these times.
Listen, I got a bunch of them, but I'm not only going to give you one. I'm going to give you two, and we all
give me three.
We all like to listen to stories. So this is the story of.
I'm gonna sit back.
When I basically left the largest accounting firm in the world to become a shoe salesman, right? So I left the largest accounting firm in the world to become a shoe salesman with my wife. It made stylish shoes that were comfortable, available in larger sizes for women. And, people thought I was crazy, literally. When I say people, I mean like my mom.
Yeah, like your mom.
They thought I was like crazy. But, it turned out that we were able to take a $10,000 investment, build it into a multi-million-dollar company. We were Inc. 30 under 30 the same year as Zuckerberg. He did a little bit better than I did, but, hey.
Hey, it's a good company to be in, right?
So at the end of the day, what the rough patch was when I took $10,000, built a multi-million-dollar company. But in 2008, it was very similar to right now. We lost it all. Let me tell you, we lost it all. We would eat ramen noodles. It was so bad. I mean, it was bad.
Nothing wrong with ramen noodles, but not every single day.
Ramen noodles are good when you're choosing them. When they're choosing you, oh my goodness.
I love that. I'm gonna get that up out of that one.
So the reality is, what happened was, it was the Great Recession. And it wasn't that my business wasn't doing well. It's just that every independent retailer of shoes, they all went out of business. That was in 2000. They never came back. Like now you're seeing department stores go out of business. You're seeing that. But there used to be independent shoe stores in every town in America. They
Yeah.
all obliterated.
Where Al Bundy worked at. That's a shoe store that Al Bundy worked at.
Exactly.
I'm a Bundy guy.
It goes that deep. And they never came back. They never came back. And I was still doing okay because Amazon was sending me an order of like $100,000 a month. And I was still getting that order from Amazon. And well, that's when I learned a lesson that if one man is feeding you, then one man could starve you. And when Amazon stopped sending me those purchase orders, I was done.
You got to diversify. Yeah.
So that's when I ran back to corporate America and, you know, established myself again, you know, in that environment. And that's how I got involved in sports marketing and started this next chapter. So you want to hear the next story about that?
Keep it going, man. It's story time. That's what the podcast live is all about.
All right. So I had, because I started off with like a financial background and also had the entrepreneurial background, I was able to add a lot of value. I was doing some strategy work for the CEO of Saks Fifth Avenue when they were a public company. And it was some pretty interesting stuff. They were flying me across the country, and oftentimes people got fired after I left. I didn't really like it, but I was super good at it. Let me tell you.
It's a hard truth, man. Sometimes you got to tell the hard truth.
They're looking for efficiencies. I'm looking I would go to a store renovation. It'd be like a $50 million store renovation. I'd go in there and be like, listen, this is like this $5 million over here. What's that all about?
Wasting it.
People did not like me coming around their project. So that actual skill is what got me into sports marketing, into sports, is because there's a company that at one time was owned by Omnicom, Steiner Sports, and they needed help reorganizing their business and basically their whole financial operations and infrastructure. So I had that experience. So I got in the accounting department, you know? That's how I started to get into sports. I didn't start off in a dream spot in the company. I was like some accounting dude in some department. So, but the cream always rises to the top. And at the end of the day, if you commit yourself to continuous learning, all you need is a foot in the door most of the time. But the reality is that I quickly rose to second in command at the company, with bumps and bruises, of course. Definitely put that work in, and you know, I got to the point where second in command, you can't really grow beyond that to a certain extent. But one of the things that I learned is that most of the work I was doing was not on the revenue side of the business. I was basically running the business. But at the end of the day, if you don't bring in revenue, you are an expense. So if you don't
You got to be generating profit, man.
If you don't generate revenue, you're an expense. So then if you're just an expense to a company, then what do companies try to do to their expenses?
You cut them.
They try to eliminate their expenses.
You cut them, exactly.
Control their expenses. So I learned at that point, I never want to be on the expense side of a business again. So in addition to the chief operating officer role, I took on the chief marketing officer role, but then I focused on growing the sports marketing division, connecting companies and athletes for endorsements as well as events. And that kind of, I was kind of like a duck to water with that, because that was more of the dream, right?
It felt right.
Like it takes like 10 years to become an overnight success. And people think that they think they could just start off. It's like they were born on third base and they think they hit a triple. You know?
Yeah, I think that's a misnomer right now. I think everyone's trying to do this, like, get rich, get quick, get famous, get famous quickly. And it's It doesn't work like that. And when you do see it work, that's literally the top 1% of all of everybody, right? That's nobody, right? Like that's all you see, but you don't see underneath that iceberg all the hard work that went into that.
Yeah. So even this podcast right now, it's like people listen. People don't even really fully understand how good you are as in the talent in the recruiting space. They don't really fully understand that. I don't know if they even care because there's so many damn recruiters and
A
people.
lot of them.
But you're smart because you provide value every day. You're smart because you're not in it to just get. So at some point, people are gonna realize, yo, this dude is legit. He's the real deal. Let's give him a shot, or let's be loyal to this guy. It might take you
You're giving away my secrets, man.
yeah, it might take you a long time, right? But
Yeah.
then at the end of the day, if you're doing things for the right reason, it doesn't matter how long it takes. But if you're trying to speed up the relationship process, you could reject or you can repel people that would love to be in your inner circle.
I talk about this all the time too. I talk about the long game is the only game in town, and that's what's going to get people through this current time. It's those relationships, and you hit the nail on the head. What I do is not unique. Being a recruiter is not unique, but what is unique is me. It's my trustworthiness. It's the value that I bring. It's my work ethic, and putting in the time now with 4 or 5xing the amount of content that I do is keeping me relevant. It's keeping me on people's radar, and more importantly, dude, I love to showcase folks like yourself and have other people shine and share their expertise. And that's how I like to add value to everybody else out there.
Listen, you're not only adding value, but you're showing the blueprint. When people come to me for advice on marketing, a lot of times they either come to me because they want to do a big event with an athlete or a small event with an athlete, but sometimes they just come to me and they're like, well, how can I grow my sales? And most people don't even really believe in marketing. They believe in growing their sales. And I say to them, I was like, listen, I'm with you. Marketing's cool, but I know the end result is you want to grow your sales. So how you get there is finding something you can authentically do to provide value that is not eating away at you in a way where you don't really want to do it. Something you want to do. Like for me, I don't want to do a podcast, so I don't. Right?
No, it's not for everybody.
Right, but I do post content on LinkedIn every day. I don't really feel like doing it every day, but I do.
It's work, man.
Is it something you could do every day that keeps adding value to other people? And
100%.
That's what people need to do to really grow their business. Like some people don't want to be on camera. Or can you type something? Right? Can you?
Yeah, right.
Maybe you could take a great photo and put some words with the photo, or just words, or whatever you could do. But at the end of the day, if you are not an expert, if you're not viewed as an expert, then you're fighting against all the competition. And people without a brand,
you have to stand out.
You have to build brand. Personal brand is important. It doesn't matter if you have 100 followers. Just make sure they're loyal.
Right, that's exactly it. So let's touch on your sports experience for a little bit. You've had the amazing opportunity that so few people have to really engage with the top of the top, the GOATs, right? The GOATs of all time, the greatest of all time. Talk about an athlete or a celebrity that really left an impression on you, right? Where they left a lesson that they said something to you, they put something in your ear, or you saw the way that they interacted with other people that you really said, you know what? That dude, that lady is doing something right, and I gotta keep an eye on
that. So you want to hear some of the secrets? You want some sauce?
It's hard hitting, man. I just listened to Tom Brady on the Howard Stern show last week, and it was unbelievable. I'll send you that link if you want to check it out. It's 2.5 hours of Tom Brady just telling his life story, his career story. They don't even talk about Giselle that much. It's just Tom's work ethic and his passion and his approach to relationships that blows your mind.
Well, I got a Tom Brady story too, right? So I get Tom. One of my favorite clients is Mohegan Sun. And it was right after Tom won that last Super Bowl, like 2 months after. So his first like public appearance after the Super Bowl, and I got him to come to my client, Mohegan Sun. And they're like up in Connecticut, which is kind of
yeah, it's in there.
it's in between New York and Boston. So there's people came down from
A
Boston.
lot of Patriots fans there. Yeah.
I mean, it was insane because it just won the Super Bowl. And the way the event worked is that we kind of prior to the main event, we would go to like this presidential suite with a bunch of high rollers and hang out and have a couple drinks and relax up there with the high rollers. And then afterward, we would come down to the main area and have like the typical Q&A, and then pictures later with the audience, etc. But when we were in the presidential suite, my wife comes to me with all my events. She's like employee number one, and like she's the GOAT, right?
I get it.
And so Brady picks up on this immediately. Like, this Kelvin guy is just okay, but this guy's wife is the GOAT, and he starts drilling my wife for advice on raising children for about 20 minutes. He's just like asking, well, how do you do this with the kids? How do you do that?
Wow.
And you could see his genius how he became so good at his craft, because he's drilling, Samantha Joseph about the kids and like how he can do this better and how he could do that better. He was a complete sponge. This is the greatest quarterback of all time, and he's just only interested in learning how he could become a better father. And I'm like, man, what I need to become a better father.
No, it's and the other story I hear about Tom Brady all the time was when in the locker room, whenever a new player comes in, I mean a rookie, someone from another team, someone off the practice squad, he walks up to each one of them and introduces himself as, "Hey, I'm Tom Brady. Nice to meet you." Like, that's leadership, man. Like, there's a lessons of leadership.
Yeah, I think so. That's how he introduced himself to me too. I was like, yeah, I know you.
Yeah, I know who you are, man. Yeah, there's only one Tom Brady. I mean, that's what really separates. And we talk about the cream from the crop. I mean, that's why he's one of the greatest of all time, because he gets it. And you have to know how to deal with people. You have to interact, and he knows that everybody knows who he is, right? So how does he add value? By listening.
Yeah. So I also had the opportunity to do a lot of work with Irvin Magic Johnson, and he is so much more. He seems like a lot, but he's so much more than what he even appears to be. I mean, we were doing a deal together with a division of Oracle called NetSuite. Huge company, $1 billion company, but they're acquired by Oracle 2 or 3 years ago. And he always over delivers, right? So he was doing a keynote in front of 10,000 people and 10,000 business owners that were there for a major conference in Las Vegas. And he set it up in a way where it's like, listen, Kelvin, before I come out for the keynote, I want you to kind of like warm the crowd up a little bit. So I went on in front of the 10,000 people with one of their top executives, Jason Maynard, and we did I think it's
comedy routine
online somewhere. We did a couple of minutes, and I was pretty much like the warm-up act for Magic Johnson. And, he didn't have to create that opportunity but then again, not only did he create that opportunity, he really won me over. So even after that keynote, we were able to work together again and do kind of like a radio commercial and some digital commercials together with the same client. Because, for me, I was like, whatever you want to do, I'm down with it. but he was always
Magic.
there was just walking next to him. Can you imagine, like through
Electric.
like anybody? Like it seems like if you're a security guard and you want to pick your magic, I think you get preferential treatment because, like, I think he just loves working people, and I don't know. I just love that guy. That kind
Yeah, it comes. I mean, it comes down to work ethic and relationships and making other people shine, right? Like when you know you've already made it and you have that superpower, giving back to people and giving back as far as like attention, right? Like think about like Tom Brady. He could do whatever the hell he wants in life, but he spends a few minutes talking to someone and being genuinely interested in their life. The power of that versus like just the photo op and the autograph and all that other BS. These people get it, man.
well, and when you're talking Tom Brady, he was not only interested; he's interested in learning from other people. He's constantly on the hunt to learn and get better. I mean,
Always.
that's what it's all about. I mean, when I think about LinkedIn, I think people should go to LinkedIn to be entertained. I think they should look to be educated and to grow. But when they really taking LinkedIn to another level, they'll be adding value to other people, so they could be entertained, so that they could be educated and that they could grow.
I mean, I was just talking about this with Mark. I think so many people now are having a hard time struggling with the tone of their messaging, because it's still okay to sell, it's still okay to promote, but it's how you do it and what that messaging is, right? How the listener is going to receive it on the other side, how they're going to read your words, how they're going to look at your pictures, and they're not getting it.
Yeah, I struggled with it myself because at first, I went a little bit silent because I didn't know what I wanted to say. I was feeling some weird stuff. So when I first started getting back in the swing of things, I was just like, listen, it's been a weird week for me. I'm back. I needed a few minutes to process the situation. I think people like authenticity. People like to understand like you're a real person. I mean, I think of Simon Sinek, I think, was talking about it. He was talking about the difference between like positivity and optimism.
Mm-hmm.
Positivity could be very, very annoying. If it's a crisis outside, you can't do that. It's all good. You could say you could be optimistic and say, I think it is going to get better soon. But if you start telling me that the sun is shining and it's pouring rain right now outside, then you've lost me. So
absolutely.
So I think the key when it comes to tone is less about talking and more about listening. And if we talk at people with our messaging, you got to be really careful. You could have built your whole career, Adam, and built all these relationships, but if people are approached in the wrong way, you go into the loser pile. You've lost all your street cred. You can lose it. So
yeah, it's delicate.
All kinds of marketing messages you put out there, you better be very, very careful. If you're not really, really a nice person, don't pretend to be one now.
No. So let's talk about your world, and you are a master networker. You put on incredible networking events. What are you doing to pivot and shift now that we can't be face to face? How are you keeping that momentum going in your world? Or are you taking a step back and focusing on some other things, knowing that the bread and butter is going to be there when we come out on the other side, hopefully?
Well, at first, I really wanted to focus on making sure that I was doing things for the right reasons. I've taken a look at my value proposition and how I communicate that, how I communicate my cool, my value to people. I've been thinking about it because, like I said earlier, if you get new information, you have the right to change your opinion. So I might be changing a couple of things in my offerings, my value proposition, but I think two things are going to happen with event marketing. Some people are going to be eager to meet up and go to events because they've been locked in their home for a month or so. And some people will not, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is going to happen. There's going to be two groups, people who used to go to events and people who are still going, right? So
nice.
You can't deny that and you can't ignore that. I think there's going to be a lot of value in intimate events. I haven't started doing like huge Zoom meetings and things like that yet. I think it's okay. Saturday Night Live basically just did one.
I know. I gotta watch it. That's next on my list of things to watch.
So, one of the things that I'm thinking is maybe I get 10 executives together on a Zoom. Maybe I'll do that. I haven't decided which ones yet, because at the end of the day, it's all about providing value. But I'm not going to ask my high level friends to jump on a Zoom call unless it's good for them. So I'm thinking about how I might want to do that. It's okay. It's really only been 3 weeks. I mean,
yeah, it's been about a month. I mean, let's see what happens on the other side, right?
I mean, maybe it'll be a long time. Maybe it'll be 3 months, but it's only been 3 weeks. And I'm not ready to change everything that I know right now. But what I do know is that the value paradigm has shifted, and I don't think it will ever go back. The takers have been done for years. Now, I'm telling you on this broadcast that the win-win approach to people you don't know is not going to work. You have to provide so much value that they're like, Adam's the man. I mean, that's it. That you have to get them to that point, and then maybe they'll do something with you. But that's where it's at.
Yeah, and so let's bring it home here. And I kind of prepped you on this question beforehand. I'd love to hear from you one professional silver lining and one personal silver lining that you've experienced during the last few weeks.
The personal silver lining is that it's given us a chance to figure out what we're really about. Sometimes we say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to accumulate wealth, generational wealth, and I'm going to pass it on to my family. And I'm going to spend more time with my family. Listen, if you're not spending time with your family right now, or you don't like spending time with your family, your whole story is full of crap. You found yourself out, okay? So now
you don't enjoy your family now, man. Forget it. You have no choice.
So if you're itching to get back to work because you've been spending too much time with your family, yeah, you should examine that. So I've been able to examine that and understand, okay, my kids want to play Monopoly right now. And I know it's a 4-hour commitment because after one game is going to turn into another game.
That's a serious game right there in the Joseph family.
And I want to ask myself, am I into this? And I say, I should be into this. It sounds like something I should be into. I love Monopoly. But then it gets to the point where you get to really ask yourself some questions and be honest with yourself and stop. We understand that our careers are important, but don't you want to be happy? And what is your definition of happiness? And some people think that they can only be happy through their career. Like someone's going to really pay you to be happy. Like people pay you for value. You could get money from your career and use that to create flexibility that makes you happy. But looking for your job to pay you so you could be happy, that is crazy. I mean, there's a lot of people that are very good at their career and it brings them some happiness. But people don't actually pay you for that. They pay you for the value that you bring. So understand what happiness means to you and seek that. And you got time to do it. Get a blank piece of paper and don't move for an hour and see what you're all about. So I've done that. Kind of when I went dark for a while, that's what I was doing. But
you need that time sometimes, and take advantage of this opportunity now where it's almost forced, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to professionally, many of our businesses and companies have been deemed non-essential.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Okay, non-essential, meaning stay home. What you do is non-essential. So, wow, that's a big slap in the face. So now now that your business, your company is non-essential, you probably should take a second look at your value proposition to make sure it's valuable. And value and how people assess value is that I get more from you than what I'm paying. And
that's value. It's a simple equation.
And that's why win-win is over. Because there's no value in a win-win because you're just getting what you're giving. Value is when you're getting more than what you're giving. And that's where it's going.
I love it. And speaking of value, I value you so much. And what I've learned from you, what I keep learning from you, and I really do respect and value our relationship tremendously. I wish you and your family health and good spirits and good fun. And I hope you win a couple of Monopoly games. And I look forward to seeing you in real life, hopefully in a few weeks or a couple months, man.
Yeah, all good. Everybody out there, listen. This is the time when times are tough. That's when you figure out what you're really about. So do some searching and figure it out. And that could be the biggest benefit out of all of this.
I love it, man. And Kool Kel, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you?
Listen, I applied for the Guinness Book of World Records because
For what?
I have the largest LinkedIn following for someone who has no other social media. You can't find me anywhere else.
No, he's not on. I tried to tag you on Instagram. I couldn't find you. There's a lot of other Kool Kels out there, but not this Kool Kel.
No, I'm not snapping you. Listen, you can find
No
me.
Twitter.
That's it. No Twitter. I'm not tweeting you nothing. You find me on LinkedIn.
No TikToking.
You can find me at Kool Kel Marketing, my company page, or Kelvin Joseph. All good.
Awesome. Kool Kel, thanks for joining me today. And everyone watching, we'll be back Wednesday with more live podcasts. Take care. Have a great Monday, everybody. That's how we